Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 5. This is the final part for today, Thursday, April 4th, 2013, and I'm Darko. Alright, I'm going to continue here. We left off with this article. I didn't have much time to cover it, so I'll go through it real quick and move on. Sex ed teacher in trouble for teaching sex ed. Among the complaints in Idaho district using the word vagina. So when you go to the comments, you see, well, it's 87% ridiculous. Oh man, teaching sex ed, that can't be. So he said the V word. Come on, all you conservatives, if you can't call it a vagina, what should we call it? So this is the thing. I mean, really, this should be the parents' responsibility. If they want to put them in re-education camps, then that's bad enough that they have to do that. So, but it should be up to them when they get exposed to this information. A lot of times they can opt out, but Idaho is a pretty conservative state, so most people are ignorant of that and ignorant of different cultures, and that not everybody in the United States is all the same. That's why I always like to go with the Confederation of States, or just people not even, being able to do what they want. Each state is a country, so because, even in different parts of the state, there's different cultures, there's different ways of communicating and stuff, They live differently, so we're not all the same. That's why I don't like the whole idea of a very highly centralized system of government like we have. So we have here an Idaho science teacher is being investigated by the state over the content of his 10th grade biology class. Complaints about this Tim McDaniel by scandalized Dietrich school parents include using the word vagina, talking about orgasms, showing a video clip of genital herpes, and teaching different forms of birth control. Yeah, they show all that stuff so they can scare them into basically using birth control, which is fine and everything, it keeps you safe, but, they like to say monogamy and not doing promiscuity usually will be the safest thing. So, it says here, he is also accused of playing politics by showing science students a film of inconvenient truth and sharing students' files with people other than the students' parents. Pope again champions women, says new speech again speaks of their roles as witness to the resurrection. So, after washing some of women's feet and stepping on toes literally by doing that. So he says here, Pope Francis has done the sisterhood another solid. In his weekly address, St. Peter's Square, he once again recognized women as the first witnesses of Christ's resurrection, emphasized their special role in opening the doors to the Lord. So he said that back then that they weren't considered to be witnesses. They weren't considered credible witnesses, so it's a good way to promote feminism. Man 65 claims he was raped by a young female nurse while recovering from accident in Philadelphia hospital. So, an elderly patient at a Philadelphia hospital claims that he was raped by a young female nurse while recovering from an accident last month. According to the report, the 65-year-old alleged victim was staying at the university after an accident. The alleged rape took place on the 27th of February. Around 3:30 a.m. So it says the woman then allegedly proceeded to sexually assault the elderly patient. Next up, we have student advertised a mock rape sex fantasy on Craigslist and claimed to have been abducted and attacked. This isn't the first time. I covered this about a month or two ago by a female, I think in the UK, doing this. She had like 20 false accusations of rape. Says a student who advertised a sex fantasy on Craigslist involving a mock rape has been arrested after she later claimed to have been abducted and attacked. So, the 20-year-old psychology major told police in Fargo, North Dakota, that she had been forced into a vehicle and raped before being dropped back at the parking lot at the North Dakota State University. Police launched a hunt for the attacker while warning other female students to be on their guard. But when the attacker heard about the assault and the fear that had spread among the students, he went to police. The man told the police he answered an advert placed on Craigslist of Gullickson, who was seeking sex in a role-play fantasy involved her being kidnapped and raped. He said he was instructed to grab her off the street, bound her with duct tape, and force her to have sex and then drop them off. So pretty fucked up stuff. Pardon my French. And, it's happening in neighborhoods that where I grew up that were okay and safe, and now it's happening where women are being thrown into vans, apparently, at gas stations. But then again, they're out at midnight, I'm not saying no way would I ever say that they deserve it, but I'm not a big proponent of women walking out by themselves or without some kind of male escorts, But that's So that's what I just think of being naive. So Judge Knight denies pregnant man's request for divorce because he couldn't prove he was a man when he got married to his wife. So this is the guy, of course, if you remember the picture. We got the sex change or something, but it says Thomas Beatty and his ex-wife are seeking a divorce to finalize their split and legally put their affairs in order. They have 3 children who Thomas gave birth to as he was born a woman. The judge in the case has questioned their marriage if it was ever legal under Arizona law because Beatty is transgender. So it says here the judge decided that he has no jurisdiction to grant divorce because there wasn't enough evidence that he was a man when he married his wife. AP, the Associated Press, bans use of words husband and wife for legally wed gay couples. So, update Victory, AP has corrected its error and created a new style guideline entry recognizing that legal marriages of gay couples are just as much marriages as legal marriages of straight couples. So, says there appears to be open dissension at the AP over the media's entity's new policy announced yesterday not to necessarily refer to legally wed gay couples in the same way they refer to legally wed straight ones. Says a lead AP reporter covering the LGBT issue has said that he won't follow the new policy. As the insanity continues and the new norm is here through very, very intricate engineering of our traditions that we've grown to know, grew up in, it's all changing fast, that's for damn sure. As I was born in 1980, and I can definitely see a lot has changed in my 32, almost 33 years here on this planet. AP says they're not illegal immigrants, they're immigrants who are here illegally. Remember we just covered this. AP made a significant change to the AP style guide, telling journalists that it's no longer acceptable to use the term illegal immigrant because it's too vague, and so that instead they prefer living in or entering a country illegally or without legal permission. So I don't know if you guys remember the article about basically about Obama and the White House, encouraging illegal immigrants to take on food stamps and that. And they said if you're on that you will not be basically it will not hamper your efforts to become a citizen. So, and of course we had the Immigration, ICE, or Department of Homeland Security letting loose thousands of, if not hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. And then, of course, I heard on the radio in just the past week about allowing, 20 million or some crazy number of illegal immigrants from Mexico to become U.S. citizens right away, so on a fast track. So this is not about being racist. This is not even about being uber nationalist. This is about every nation is under attack. Every culture is under attack, like a family under attack, and this is a part of this globalism agenda, which is talk about the North American Union. It's the thing about these unions is about open borders. When you have open borders, you have loss of sovereignty for each local area. So yeah, the birth rates are going up, right? But who is it? It's not the people that lived there before, but I guess technically they did, right? So I'm not going to go into the whole argument right now, but that's just the way of the world. So North Carolina considers returning driving privileges to illegal immigrants. So lawmakers in North Carolina are expected next week to propose, these are Republicans, a sweeping new state law that would grant driving privileges to residents living in the country illegally, but it would also adopt Arizona-type enforcement measures that authorize police to check the immigration status of people they question for other suspected offenses. This, of course, goes back to the article that we started off with. We got the whole world in our hands, most popular UK destinations for immigrants, basically, all flooding into the UK. And there's actually a trend now where a lot of Brits are actually heading over to Australia, New Zealand, and other places because there was a poll. There was polls that were done. I covered this in an article, RT article, where they were asked questions about what are the biggest things that make them want to leave or that makes them upset about their country, and the biggest thing is that they don't feel any sense of community anymore. They don't like the open immigration policies. So they have this article, Georgia teens look to dump segregated proms. It says, embarrassed students organize integrated dance. It says, we're now well into 2013, but don't tell that to the citizens of Rochelle, Georgia, who prefer to party like it's 1949. As racially segregated proms and homecoming dances force 4 students at Wilcox County High School are now attempting to fight back against their towns. So this is, of course, this is the presumption that we're actually progressing. This is insinuating that what we have now is not the result of an engineered society, not something through volunteerism. This is through force. This is through coercion of telling people that we are all one. Yes, we're all humans, and that's great, lovely. But you shouldn't be forcing people and saying that you're not tolerant. Well, you're not tolerant of other people when you don't allow them to do what they want to do. These students are now attempting to fight back against their town's embarrassing tradition by organizing their own integrated prom. It says here that not all the classmates are so open-minded. It says, I actually put up posters for the integrated prom, and we've had people ripping them down at school, says one of the students. High school doesn't itself organize the dances, so it's technically legal for students and parents to organize separate black and white only proms. The school finally abolished racially segregated courts for the first time at this year's homecoming, but there were still 2 dances. It says here a black student, one of the integrated prom organizers, was elected queen but attended a different dance to her king, and separate photos were taken for the yearbook. She says, I felt like there had to be change, she said, because for me to be a black person and the king to be a white person, I felt like you know why we can't come together. So, and this is, like I said, if people want to do this voluntarily and segregate, that's fine. But you got to remember, segregation, they always blame it as a white thing. Segregation was what? It was imposed by the government. Right? It wasn't done until, what, the 60s? So this is 100 years after we supposedly fought in the Civil War to end slavery. Well, we didn't. We all know that. I just covered that. It was about forcing people into the Union that didn't want to be in it, and states' rights. So talking on that note of false progress, like, smartphones and intermarriages and homosexuals and people being forced to pay for abortions and their taxes and stuff, and all of this stuff that was just not the norm 50 years ago or less than 50 years ago, that this is somehow progress. No, this is being forced into something. So people leave comments like, makes me sad how some folks are still in the dark ages again. So this is like, okay, this is better, this is progress, right? They just look at everyone else like they're stupid and totally ignorant for not accepting their fear, insanity at its finest. So, Rochelle, Georgia, the land that time forgot. So, again, I think this is due to people being naive. Naive that we're all one happy family, and it sucks because you'll get people that are just violent. They just they are in fear of people that aren't like their own, and they lash out and get violent. And so I'm not saying that, I'm not proposing that, but I just want to put out there that it goes both ways. You know what I mean? And I know that there's an agenda going on in America or United States and Europe, and mostly most white European countries, because you don't see articles like this. You get what you deserve. White boy 13-year-old set on fire in horrific racially charged attack. There's no outcry like, the Trayvon case. What is the first thing they said? They said that he was a white guy that killed a black kid. Well, what they didn't come out and say right away was that it was actually a Latino that shot this guy, this teenager who was just had pictures all over the internet of giving the finger and gang signs, who wanted to be a down-ass thug who jumped over into basically private property in the community. Not saying he was wanted to be shot, but they push those things, and then they don't cover stuff like this as much. Boy 9 found hanged was bullied for being white. So I guess my last point is it's about divide and conquer. So what I'm trying to do here is not divide and conquer. What I'm trying to say is like, don't be naive about this engineering of our society, inducing and forcing tolerance and equality. It happened naturally. Because if you don't, you're going to get blowback from this engineering and eugenics, which is stuff like this. You have Obama has announced a $100 million brain mapping project. Isn't that interesting? Announced a long-term project to improve the understanding of the brain. So, of course, they can have more mind control, so they can make it more sophisticated to control the minds of the masses. They're talking about neuroscientists and neuroscience, which is, Peter Lonz and the Colorado shooter. These are the experiments. Where these hundreds of $millions going to go? Oh, to DARPA. It'll be used for defense purposes. That's why when you see these mass shootings with these people like Colorado shooting and Lanza, these are operations, they're exercises. What does a tablet do to the child's mind? Says, I recently watched my sister perform an act of magic while they were sitting at a restaurant trying to have a conversation. They couldn't because their kids would not stop fighting. Pulled out 2 iPads and suddenly the two were quiet. Eerily so. Thank you.